Welcome to Classic Storytime Hub. Tonight, we unravel the haunting mystery of the Giant Wistaria by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This isn't a simple retelling. It's a reimagined narration, reshaped with fresh suspense and cinematic tension, crafted to keep you on edge from the very first word.
Don't touch my vine, girl. Look, you've already snapped the tender shoot. You were never meant for needle or spindle, and still you cannot keep still. Her trembling fingers reached for the carnelian cross at her throat, clutching it desperately before falling limp at her side. Give me my child, mother. Only then will I be silent. Quiet, foolish girl. Someone might hear. Look, your father comes even now. Inside, quickly. She lifted her eyes to her mother's face, eyes heavy with exhaustion, yet burning faintly with a desperate, flickering fire. Are you a mother, and yet have no pity for me, a mother? Give me my child! Her voice rose, a strange, broken cry, cut short by her father's hand clamped hard across her mouth. Shameless creature, back to your chamber. Show yourself again tonight, and I'll have you bound. She obeyed, vanishing into the shadows, trailed by a stern-faced servant. Moments later, the servant returned, pressing a key into her mistress's hand. All is well with her? And the child? She is quiet, mistress. The child frets endlessly, but it thrives well enough with me. The parents were left alone on the wide porch, its heavy pillars casting long shadows in the rising moonlight. The young vine curled upward, its leaves stretching like ghostly fingers across the oak floorboards. It grows well, this vine you brought me from the ship, husband. Aye, he answered bitterly, and so does the shame I brought with it. Had I known, I would have sooner have let the ship sink beneath us and seen our daughter drowned clean than live to this disgrace. You are cruel, Samuel. Do you not fear for her life? She grieves for her child and for the green fields she longs to walk in. He shook his head grimly. She has already lost what is more than life. Tomorrow the ship is ready. We return to England. No one here knows of our stain. If the town must raise a child unclaimed, it will not be the first. It will be cared for well enough, and we should be thankful her cousin still agrees to marry her. You told him? Aye. Did you think I would cast shame into another man's house without his knowing? He has always wanted her, though she spurned him. She has little choice now. Will he be kind, Samuel? Can he—
Kind? You call it kindness to take a girl like her as a wife? Kind? How many men would touch her, even if she had twice the fortune? He's family already. He's glad enough to bury the stain forever. And if she refuses, he's a coarse brute, and she's always despised him. Refuses? Are you mad, woman? She marries him before we sail tomorrow, or she never leaves that chamber again. The girl is no fool. He'll make her an honest woman and save our house from ruin. What other hope has she, except to bury the past beneath a new life? Let her have a child she can claim without shame if she longs for one so badly. He stormed across the porch, the loose planks groaning beneath his heavy steps. Back and forth he paced, arms folded, jaw clenched, his brows drawn tight above a mouth like iron. Above him, hidden among the leaves, a pale face flickered in the moonlight, eyes burning faintly with wasted fire. Oh, George, what a house! What a beautiful, dreadful house! I swear it's haunted. Let's take it for the summer. We'll bring Kate, Jack, Susie, and Jim. It will be glorious. Young husbands are indulgent, but even indulgence has limits. My dear, the house may not even be for rent, And if it is, it may not be fit to live in. There's someone inside. I'll ask. The great iron gate sagged from its hinges, the long drive swallowed by trees. Yet a narrow footpath showed signs of use, and up it Mrs. Jenny marched, her husband trailing obediently behind. The mansion's front windows stared blank and lifeless, but in a side wing they found open doors and white curtains stirring in the breeze. Outside, in the bright May sunlight, a woman bent over her washing. She greeted them warmly, grateful for company in such a lonely place. Yes, perhaps the house could be rented, though she wasn't sure. The heirs were in Europe, and a lawyer in New York handled the letting. She and her husband lived there only to keep thieves away. The place was fully furnished, old-fashioned but solid. If they took it, she could even work for them herself, if her husband agreed. And so, with shocking ease, the mad idea became reality. George knew the lawyer, the rent was modest, and the seaside resort nearby made it all the more tempting. By June, Kate, Jack, Susie, and Jim had joined them, and the moon found the group gathered on the high front porch of their new summer home. They had explored every corner, from the garret's vast empty room where only a broken cradle remained, to the cellar's yawning well, its rusty chain vanishing into blackness. The grounds, once a paradise of rare trees and flowers, had grown into a wild, tangled wilderness of shadow. The garden had long since surrendered to wildness. Lilacs and laburnums pressed their heavy heads against the upstairs windows, while tangled shrubs sprawled in shapeless beds. But it was the wistaria that ruled the house. Its trunk, too massive to be called a stem, rose like a serpent at the porch steps. Once it had climbed the pillars, now it crushed them, twisting them into submission with its knotted coils. The vine wove itself into a living wall, fencing in the upper porch, crawling along the eaves, even propping up the sagging gutter it had outgrown. Every window lay buried beneath its green weight, while cascades of purple blossoms poured down in fragrant sheets from roof to ground like a silken shroud. "Have you ever seen such a vine?" cried Mrs. Jenny, her eyes alight. "It's worth the rent just to sit beneath it. A fig tree beside it would be pure extravagance." George laughed. "Jenny adores her wistaria because she's disappointed about the ghosts. She came here determined to find them, and not a single story has turned up." Jenny sighed, almost theatrically. "I questioned poor Mrs. Pepperell for 3 days, and she swore there was nothing. But I know better. A house like this, with gardens like these and a cellar like that, don't tell me it isn't haunted." Jack, the reporter, leaned forward with a grin. "If we don't find a ghost, I'll invent one. This place is too good to waste." His fiancée, Jenny's pretty sister, bristled. "You'll do no such thing. This house is haunted. I can feel it. Look at those trees in the tall grass. Doesn't it look like a figure, crouching, hunted, waiting?" Jim, her brother-in-law, squinted. "Looks more like a woman picking berries to me." "Be quiet, Jim," she snapped. "I believe in Jenny's ghost as much as she does. Just look at this vine, this monstrous trunk crawling up the steps. Doesn't it look like a body, writhing, begging for mercy?" Jim chuckled nervously. "Yes, Susie, it does. Twisted waist and all. A waste of good timber, if you ask me." "Don't be horrid," the women scolded. "If you can't be serious, go smoke somewhere else." The men obliged, turning their teasing into mock horror, pointing out phantom bloodstains and shadowy figures until the women shivered with delighted fear. At last, the ghost believers declared they'd never sleep a wink and hurried off to bed. "We'll all dream tonight," Mrs. Jenny called after them, "and tomorrow morning we must tell every dream."
"Careful there, Susie." George caught her just as she stumbled over a loose plank.
That settles it. You lively creatures will have to use the side door until I fix this collapsing tower of a porch. One of these boards gapes like a trapdoor, big enough to swallow you whole. I swear, the bottom of it must open straight into China. The next morning, they were all still alive and gathered around a hearty New England breakfast. Outside, the sharp rhythm of saws and hammers filled the air as carpenters, astonishingly prompt, tore into the porch with ruthless efficiency. "It's got to come down," one of them declared. "These timbers are rotted clean through. What hasn't been twisted out of line by that monster vine is barely holding together." There was no denying the truth of it. With a stern warning from Mrs. Jenny not to harm her beloved Wistaria, the workers were left to demolish and rebuild at their leisure. "How about ghosts?" Jack asked casually, after polishing off his fourth griddle cake. "I had one last night, and it nearly ruined my appetite." Mrs. Jenny gave a startled cry, dropping her knife and fork. "So did I. Not exactly a dream, but a feeling. I'd forgotten it until now." Jack smirked, reaching for another cake. "Must have been dreadful. Go on, tell us about this feeling. My ghost can wait." Jenny shivered at the memory. "Even now, it makes my skin crawl. I woke suddenly, wide awake, with that awful certainty that something was about to happen. Every sound seemed magnified, the endless chirp of crickets, the faint rustle of leaves. The moonlight poured through my 3 windows, falling in white squares across the black floor. And those wistaria leaves we spoke of last night, they seemed to crawl across the light like grasping fingers. And then, oh, girls, you remember that dreadful well in the cellar?" The table fell silent, every face intent. Jenny leaned forward, her voice dropping. "Well, as I lay there, straining to keep still, I heard it, clear as if it were in the room with me, the old chain down there, rattling and creaking over the stones." "Bravo!" Jack exclaimed. "That's perfect. I'll put it in the Sunday edition." "Be quiet, Jack," Kate snapped. "Jenny, did you actually see anything?" "No," Jenny admitted. "And at that moment, I didn't want to. I woke George, made such a fuss that he gave me bromide and promised to look himself. That's the last I remember. The bromide worked too well."
"Now, Jack, it's your turn," Jim teased. "Maybe your ghost will fit in with Jenny's. A thirsty one, perhaps. Prohibition must have started early in this house." Jack leaned back, folding his napkin with theatrical gravity. The great hall clock was striking 12. "There isn't any hall clock," Jim interrupted. "Hush! You'll ruin the mood." "Very well. 1 o'clock, by my faithful repeater." "Waterbury," Jim muttered. "Never mind the time," Jack continued smoothly. "Like Jenny, I awoke with a start and couldn't fall asleep again. The moonlight, the crickets, the restless silence, it was all the same. And then my ghost arrived. A woman. Young, I think, though her face was hidden. She was wrapped in a shawl, clutching a bundle, moving with frantic haste. She glided to an old bureau, rifled through the drawers, and as she turned, the moonlight caught a small red cross at her throat. It glittered on its chain as she slipped soundlessly from the room. That was all. The women gasped. "Jack, did you really see her? What do you think it was?" Jack grinned. "The genuine ghost of an eloping chambermaid with sticky fingers. Nothing more." Jenny groaned. "You're impossible. You've drained every shiver out of us." "It's broad daylight. 9:30 in the morning. Carpenters hammering outside. Hardly the hour for chills. But if you insist, George here has a better story. He went down to the cellar after Jenny's ghost." A chorus of delighted voices rose, and Jenny looked at her husband with grateful eyes. George cleared his throat. It's one thing to lie in bed and imagine ghosts, but a householder suspects burglars. And though I'm a doctor and know the tricks of the nerves, I couldn't ignore it. After Jenny fell asleep, I lit a candle and began my search. Room by room, I worked my way down until I reached the cellar and the well. The table leaned forward as one. "Well?" Jack prompted, his grin faltering.
"You may laugh now," George said grimly, "but that cellar is no joke in daylight, and by candlelight at midnight it's about as comforting as a firefly in Mammoth Cave." I crept along, holding the flame low, careful not to stumble into the well, and then, suddenly, I was there. I leaned over, held the light down, and saw her, right beneath my feet, a woman hunched beneath a shawl, clutching the chain. The candle lit her hands, thin, white hands, and on her chest a small red cross glimmered on its chain. I don't believe in ghosts, and I don't tolerate strangers in my house at night, so I spoke to her, sharp, demanding. She didn't move. I reached down to seize her, and then I came upstairs. A chorus of voices broke in. What for? What happened? What was wrong? George's face was pale. Nothing happened, only she wasn't there. May have been a dream or indigestion, but as a physician, I don't recommend anyone test their digestion alone in a midnight cellar. Jack laughed nervously. "The most elusive ghost I've ever heard of. My bet is she's guarding silver tankards and jewels at the bottom of that well. Let's go and see." "To the bottom of the well, Jack?" someone asked. "To the bottom of the mystery," he grinned. "Come on." And so they went, all of them, the ladies in their crisp dresses and delicate boots, escorted gallantly by men whose jokes came too quickly, too forced. The cellar swallowed them in darkness. They carried lights, but the well itself yawned black and bottomless, so grim that the women recoiled. "That well is enough to frighten even a ghost," Jim muttered. "Best leave it alone." "Truth lies hidden in a well," George answered, "and tonight we'll drag it out. Give me a hand with the chain." Jim pulled, George turned the groaning windlass, and Jack kept up his nervous chatter. "A wet sheet for this ghost, if not a flowing sea. Hard work raising spirits, eh? Perhaps he kicked the bucket when he went down." The chain grew lighter, shorter. The silence grew heavier. At last, the bucket broke the surface, rising slowly through the black water. They leaned in, half eager, half afraid. The women drew back. The men prodded the contents. Only water. Nothing but mud. Something. They tipped the bucket onto the damp earth. The women, pale and shaken, slipped quickly into the sunlight outside, where the air was warm, the hammers rang, and the scent of fresh-cut wood drifted from the porch repairs. No one spoke until the men emerged. Jenny's voice broke the silence, hesitant, almost afraid of the answer. "How old do you think it was, George?" He hesitated. "The water preserves lime in it. If you mean the bones, centuries perhaps. But the child," his voice faltered, "no more than a month, a very small baby." The words fell like stones into the silence. Then a cry from the workmen. Everyone turned. The porch floor and side walls had been torn away, and the sunlight now poured straight down into the cellar. And there, tangled in the suffocating grip of the great Wistaria's roots, lay the skeletal remains of a woman. Around her neck, still gleaming faintly in the light, hung a tiny scarlet cross on a delicate chain of gold. And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey,
If there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.